here we are. It is Wednesday, March 1st. We are really super excited about our guest today. We've got Megan with us from MBS Highway, and she is going to give us a second quarter update in regards to kind of what we're looking at in the housing market and kind of see where we're going to go. Especially with rates kind of pushing a little bit higher in the last couple of weeks, and then, and the inventory shortage that's still in some places and not in others, and how things are going. So, Megan, if you are ready, you can take it away.
Yes, welcome, Megan.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. And I know things have been a little bit tough. One thing that I love about my job is I get to go around and I get to interview a lot of influential people, just like these lovely ladies right here. And what I've noticed is the people that survived during the last housing crash, right? The 2006 time period, 2008, they all say it was really rough. Oftentimes many of them built their teams up just to have to let a lot of them go. Mm-hmm. But what they do say that I find very fascinating, and I think all of us need to remember right now, is that they needed to go through those times to be the leader and to be as influential as they are today. And I want all of us to remember that as we go into this discussion today. And how can we shift it from it being, I'm never going to get that level of commission that I got back then. Those were the times. How can we reframe that to, okay, things are a little bit slower right now. Where is this market? What opportunity is this market presenting for me to sharpen my skills? And that's how I think we need to step into every day.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And, as far as mortgage rates go, it's been a little bit of a challenging ride, as you ladies had both mentioned. A big reason for that is simply because we've been dealing with inflation. Inflation has been at a 42-year high. Now, what exactly is inflation? Well, I want you to think of it this way. You're kind enough to give me a mortgage. Now, it's a $2,000 a month fixed payment. And with that $2,000, you go out and you buy a list of goods and services. And everything's good for a while. You're able to go get your hair done, go get that purse, get the dog groomed, pay your bills. But over time, you start to realize that $2,000 isn't going as far. And that's because the cost of goods is rising over time. That is inflation. And not a lot of people know this, but it's inflation that drives mortgage rates. And so we've seen inflation go up. And I actually have a slide here that we'll go ahead and share with you guys so that you can see this. And if you guys do want to stay up to date with me, by all means, go ahead, text Megan to 33777. That will keep you up to date on everything. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. Okay, let's go ahead and let's dive into this a little bit. As I mentioned, inflation drives mortgage rates. And you can see that correlation here on this chart. This pink line is inflation as measured by the core consumer price index. There's two different reports that we can look at for inflation. There's CPI, which is our favorite because it's more heavily weighted towards housing. And then there's the Fed's favorite measure of inflation, which is PCE, personal consumption expenditure. Both measure the cost of goods over time. PCE doesn't have as much of a weighting towards housing, which obviously is influential to us. But you'll notice this blue line is the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. Okay, so as we see inflation rise, we see mortgage rates rise. As we see it begin to decline, we see mortgage rates decline. This happens time and time again. But there is this time period where you might be looking at this and saying, well, you know what? That is not the case right there. We saw inflation rise. Meanwhile, mortgage rates were staying around this 3% range. Well, that's because the Fed was coming in artificially keeping rates lower by doing what they call quantitative easing. Essentially, they were buying massive amounts of mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. And that was artificially keeping rates lower. But the second that they stopped doing that quantitative easing, well, again, we saw inflation continue to rise. And with that, that's when the craziness started to happen in mortgage rates. Now, the good news is that we believe that inflation is going to start trending lower. And everybody here knows, for the most part, I know it depends on your area, but inventory is tight. So right now we have a lot of buyers that are sitting on the sidelines saying, you know what, I'm going to wait for rates to come back down. We're going to go over what that's going to mean for the housing industry and the conversations that we can have with our clients to overcome that and get them to focus on the opportunity that is at hand in today's market. So we spoke about inflation, but one thing the Fed can do to help come in and fight inflation, and they've been aggressively doing it, is by raising the Fed funds rate. Now, that's not our mortgage rate. We know this. This is the overnight borrowing rate for banks, and it makes certain borrowing costs more expensive. If you're going to go out and get that auto loan, a lot more expensive. You might decide at that point in time, you know what? I'm just going to keep running this one into the ground that I have. If you have a business, you might think twice about investing $3 million into technology because it's costing you a lot more to do so. So by the Fed raising the Fed funds rate, it starts to slow down the economy. We start to see, more bank deposits, the velocity of money starts to slow down. And you can think about the velocity of money essentially as how many times that dollar turns over. So you go get your $7 cup of coffee at Starbucks, that employee gets some of that. They go out, they go to the grocery store, that grocer gets paid. You see all the times that money is shifting hands. So it slows down that velocity of money. Now, thankfully, one thing that has been helpful to us in helping to begin fight inflation is our supply chains are beginning to improve. COVID really threw things out of whack as far as that goes, but thankfully, they're on the trajectory to get better. Now, let's understand this even deeper. I mentioned CPI. That's the report that we look at every single month to give us inflation information. Now, back in May of 2022, the core CPI reading, and we look at core specifically because it strips out volatile food and energy prices. We've all seen the headlines, the random egg farms that light on fire. Obviously, egg prices are going to go up, right? So we want to remove those things because at the end of the day, if the Fed comes in and raises the Fed funds rate, well, they can't control what happens with the weather and what happens with crops. So we want to remove all of that from the equation. So back in May of 2022, it came in at 5.8% on a year-over-year basis. Now, we're going to put the 30-year fixed mortgage rate in correlation to this so that you can see how this kind of changes depending on where inflation goes. But the way that you get this 5.8 reading is you add up the last 12 months of data. So when we got May's number in June, well, what happened? June of last year dropped off and it gave us that new annual inflation rate. And watch as it went down a little bit. Well, we saw mortgage rates come down a little bit as well. Now, at this point in time, a lot of people have said, oh, you know what? Inflation is peaked. Well, we knew that inflation hadn't peaked. And you know why too. If we're adding up the last 12 months of data, are these lower numbers or higher numbers that we're going to be replacing with it? These are low numbers. So we thought, okay, we have a good chance right now of coming in with higher numbers. And that's exactly what happened. And we saw inflation go up to 6.7%. And with it, we saw mortgage rates go up as well. Now, we said in June, circle November 10th on your calendar because that's when we believe that inflation is really going to hit its highest point and begin to slowly trend lower. Now, remember, we get November's reading in December. So what did we do? Why did we believe that inflation was going to begin to come down? Well, again, these are higher numbers. So we thought there could be a good chance that we would begin to replace them with lower numbers. And that's exactly what happened. And you'll notice inflation, again, comes down a little bit. And with it, mortgage rates come down as well. Now, I had mentioned within this CPI report that the reason that we like to look at this for inflation is because it's heavily weighted towards housing, which is important to us. And in fact, shelter costs within this report make up 43% of the weighting. A lot of it. But we know in real time, and many of you are probably experiencing this as well, is that those year-over-year rental increases are slowing down. Here they were at the peak. They're slowing down in real time to where they're up 3%. And again, that's according to Apartment List. But the thing is, within CPI, it's a lagging indicator. So the data that they're looking at is lagging. And it's actually showing that shelter costs are rising. And you can think about this as a roller coaster. In real time, we know those shelter costs are trending lower, but the data that they're looking at within CPI, you're still going up the roller coaster. And this is what it looks like within CPI. It's making up 7.9%. It's still showing that it's trending upwards. And if we take this into account, the difference here, if it was caught up, we wouldn't be at 5.5% for inflation. We'd be closer to 3.5% inflation. Now, we believe that March 14th is going to be the time period when you're going to start to see that shift within the data. And we believe that inflation is going to come down at that point in time at an even faster clip. I mean, it makes up 43% of it. Now, a lot of people out there are saying, you know what, I don't see a recession. I don't see a hard landing because we've had great jobs numbers. How can you have a recession when you have great unemployment rates? Well, here's the thing, team. A lot of people get this wrong. It's not when the unemployment rate is at its highest that you see a recession. It's when it's at its lowest levels and begins to tick higher. And this happens time and time again. These gray bars represent the past recessions. And the blue line is the unemployment rate. And you'll notice when it's at its lowest levels and begins to tick higher, recession. Lowest levels, tick higher, recession. Time and time and time and time again. And it is only a matter of time until these numbers start to reflect. We got the latest jobs report data. They recently switched their methodology. They always do an end of a year kind of recalculation. And it's only a matter of time until we start to see that unemployment rate begin to tick higher. Now, we really believe that a recession is coming. There's two really big things that we're starting to see. One, credit card and revolving debt. Well, that is skyrocketing. And not only that, but personal savings rates is declining rather rapidly as well. You'll see these three peaks. Those were all the stimulus that ended up coming out. So we have well spent that at this point in time. But there is good news. Every time we have entered a recession in the past, we have seen mortgage rates decline. And listen, we all know inventory is really tight, and we'll go over that here in a second. So what's going to happen when mortgage rates decline? You're going to have a slew of buyers coming into a tight inventory environment. But let's take a look at what historically has happened to mortgage rates during time periods of recessions. 3 to 2, 6 to 4, 7 to 6, 11 to 8, 18 to 13, 16 to 11. It is only a matter of time. But what about the clients that say, I don't think I should purchase a home during a time period of recession? And we have to really get into the psyche of the client if we want to convert that sale, right? Well, oftentimes people pull their beliefs from their past experiences. So maybe the last thing that they remember, the last real recession that they felt, they correlate with the housing crash. And that was a completely different scenario. What you're looking at here, the blue bars represent past recessions. This white line is home prices according to Case-Shiller. And you'll notice that during the past recessions, home prices have actually done really well. They even went up in oftentimes. Now, again, the housing crash was a little bit different, right? It was the housing crash that led us into the recession, not the other way around. Completely different scenario here. We had way too many homes on the market, not enough people to come in and purchase those homes. Basic law of supply and demand. What happened to home prices? Well, of course, they had to come down. That is not the case in today's market. Not only that, but demand is going to continue to stay strong. What you're looking at here is you're looking at birth rates per year dating back to 1928. So you'll see the different generations. We have baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and according to Zillow, the average age of a first-time home buyer today is 33 years of age. So if we scoop up all the 33-year-olds today and we go back 33 years, they land right here on the chart. Now, don't be worried that this looks like it's peaked and coming down. You're staying at these high levels of 4 million births per year. And speaking of that housing bubble, well, what if we took the average age of a first-time home buyer in 2006, 33 years of age, go back 33 years, they land right here on the chart at 1973. Do you guys know what major law was passed in 1973?
No.
Well, I'm not here to get political, answer if it's right or wrong, but I just want to show you how it correlates to the data. Roe v. Wade, abortion became legalized and we saw a lull in the birth rates. If only builders would have gone back and looked at this, they might have said, oh, you know what? maybe I should stop putting homes on the market because there's not going to be anyone new to come in and purchase those homes. I'll tell you why inventory is tight right now. It's because builders learned their lesson back in this time period. Now, this puts it all together and shows us supply and demand, which we've talked about. That's important when it comes to the price and the appreciation of that home. So there's two bars dating back to 2004. The blue bar represents household formations. What's a household formation? Well, that's a kid that says, I've had enough of mom and dad. I need to get my own place. One family, two roofs over their head. Whereas this orange bar represents household completions. That's builders putting homes on the market. And we see for the last many years now, demand has outweighed supply. That's very supportive of appreciation. But look at what it looked like back in the housing crash. Again, completely different scenario. And it's so important that we share that with our clients. Not to mention the vacancy rates are low. When we look at homeownership vacancy rates and rental vacancy rates, they're low. You're not going to have a housing crash unless these numbers are a lot higher and people, I need to get rid of my second home or I need to get rid of my rental property because it's not being filled. Now, what about inventory? We've talked about the fact that it's tight. How tight is it? Well, back in 2007, there was 4 million homes. Now the population has increased 30 million and there's 980,000 homes on the market. And not just that, but let's get down to the real story, because the truth is the media is not going to tell you the real story. This report, which comes out on a monthly basis, just came out and it stated there's 980,000 homes, but that includes homes under contract. Now, if that home's going to close next week, are you going to take the client to go see that home? Obviously not. So we have to subtract those out. There's 354,000 of them. And when we do, our active listings, our actual inventory is 626,000.
And that's nationwide, correct?
That's nationwide, yes. And you can look at how it's kind of, come out throughout the years. Now, it is cyclical. We know this, but it's at tight levels. You're not going to see the housing crash. What are we forecasting is going to happen? Well, you're going to see inflation begin to come down. We're going to see a recession-like slowdown. Not only that, but incomes are going to continue to rise, which will help with the affordability issue. There's going to remain really tight inventory. Again, builders have learned their lesson. And rents are going to still continue to increase, just at a slower pace. Now, appreciation, it's not going to be the 18-20% appreciation that we've been seeing. And honestly, that's a good thing. I think we can all agree that if we continued to see that, we would have been in a much harder world of hurt. So we're still going to see appreciation. It's going to be low single digits. And the way that I like to describe this to clients especially is, listen, yes, it was like we were on the interstate, for a while, driving 85, 90 miles an hour going forward. The thing is now it's not like we're going in reverse. It's just we took the exit and now we're driving in the suburbs going 15, 20 miles an hour. There's still wealth and opportunity through real estate.
Isn't that an average of about 3% a year, traditionally?
Yeah, that sounds about right. We do have a tool called our real estate report card that you can pull it up to and see the historical appreciation for that specific county or zip code. And that's a great tool to utilize as well. So let's talk about buying versus renting. And I'll share the real estate report card here in a second too. And if we have time left on the call, I'm more than happy to kind of dive in and showcase that as well.
Perfect.
So let's talk about buying versus renting. Let's say this client was thinking about purchasing a $400,000 home. They're going to put 10% down. And let's say the rate's at 6.5%. And they're expected to be in this home for 9 years. Now we're going to include all the things, the property tax, the repair costs, the 6% commission to real estate agents. And this will pull in that historical appreciation as well. Now, if they were to rent a home, it'd be $2,900 a month for that first year. And the year-over-year rental increases, which this tool will tell you as well, is at 4% right now. So should they buy or should they rent? And if they should buy, how much better is it? And if we can't answer that, that is when you're going to want to ask your NEXA LO for the buy versus rent scenario. This is going to break it down for the client. And we all know this. When your client's looking at this, they're saying, oh, well, you know what? This is cheaper on a monthly basis, so maybe I should just keep renting. Well, hold up, Mr. and Mrs. Client. Rents are going up 4% on an annual basis in our area. By year 6, you're going to end up spending more on a monthly cash flow basis to rent versus purchase that home. And at the end of the 9 years you're thinking about living there, well, you'd be better off purchasing that home on a cash flow basis by a little over $600. But that's just the beginning. And we need to remember that a large portion of our job is simply education. They don't know what they don't know. And they might not realize that part of that monthly mortgage payment is principal and interest. We know some of that goes to the lender. The other portion is basically a forced savings plan. It's like taking money from one pocket and putting it directly into the other pocket. That's a guaranteed gain of $47,000. And then, I love this quote from Albert Einstein: compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And not a lot of people understand it. So they might be surprised to know that they could gain over $200,000 in appreciation alone. Now, of course, we're going to include some of the negatives, that $36,000 for the commission to the real estate when they decide to move out of that home. We're going to plug in the tax benefits. And all in all, that client might be surprised to know that they'd be $216,000 better off purchasing over renting. In fact, they'd be better off purchasing over renting even if they were thinking about living in the home for 2 years or longer. And all of these pieces can be co-branded and shared in a variety of ways. So what about that client? We had mentioned it a few times. What about that client that's waiting for rates to come back down before purchasing? Well, that's when you're going to want to use what?
We use it all the time.
All the time. Well, you know what? And we can't blame them either, because we just went through the exercise. We know that rates are going to come down once we enter a recession, right? And so it's not that their thinking is faulty, but they're just not seeing the opportunity that exists right now. And this tool is going to help you have that conversation. First off, we're going to share with the client, listen, we're in a tight inventory environment. The longer that you wait to purchase that home, the more that home is going to appreciate. Meaning the longer you wait, the higher the loan amount's going to be, the higher the down payment's going to be. And while we don't know exactly where rates are going to be at, you can simply come in here, edit these and change these to whatever belief scenario that client has in their head. And then what it's going to do is it's going to break it down for them and share with them, okay, if you were to wait a year to purchase that home, it's going to cost you an extra $130 a month on that payment. But here's the bigger thing. By not purchasing today, you're missing out in property appreciation and amortization. Waiting that 1 year is actually costing you closer to $25,000. Listen, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I have a lot of clients like you sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to come back down before purchasing. But the truth is, I see an opportunity in moving forward and purchasing today. You see, the market has slowed down a little bit. That gives us more room for opportunity to get you the best deal on that home. So let's get in while we have that opportunity, because what's going to happen when rates come back down is you're going to have a slew of buyers coming off the fence into a tight inventory environment, and you can say bye-bye to any room for negotiation. And that's the conversation that we need to be having with our clients. Now, these are the net worth tiers, and these are fun. If you want to be in the top 1%, you need 10.8 million. Top 2%, 2.5 million. Top 5%, 1 million. Top 10%, 0.8. Top 50, 0.5. Now, here's the thing. Real estate is such a wonderful opportunity, and what they won't tell you about these top worth net tiers is that, on average, 2/3 of net worth comes from home equity. And during these times, during recessionary time periods, you know where your money is usually pretty safe? Real estate. And we need to be, again, having that conversation with our client agents that are on here today. If you want to save some time, ask your NEXA LO for this AVM evaluation. If you don't like pulling comps, ask them for this. It'll show the neighborhood market, all the listings in that area, different local market snapshots like the median single family sales price, the cost per square foot, units sold in that area. This is the real estate report card that we were talking about. So you can come in and plug in any zip code, or if that client has a specific home, you can just share that listing number. And here we are in New Jersey. Now in New Jersey, top 10% in the United States for median income, 1 year forecasted appreciation, 5 year forecasted appreciation, and historical appreciation. This client is looking at a particular home right in that range of the median home price. Then we're going to showcase the historical and forecasted rates of appreciation. So this is where you can come in and you can see that information that you were talking about, Karen. And then we're going to share, potentially for the first time ever, the opportunity that exists in purchasing that home by sharing with them this 5-year appreciation gain. We're going to share with them inventory. What does that look like? What does supply and demand look like in this area? What about employment and unemployment? And what about affordability? These are all things that can be broken down and shared with that client in a variety of ways. This is our investment calculator that you can go ahead and ask for as well. There's a lot of investors out there right now. We're seeing a lot of cash buyers out there. It's because they see the opportunity. And I love this quote from Sir John Templeton because I feel like it really embodies the market that we're in. The time of maximum pessimism is the best time to buy. I want to open it up for any questions that anyone might have. I know we have a couple minutes left.
Absolutely. That is such great information. Just made me so excited.
Yay! Oh, Tony, love that comment. Yes, we do have a tool that can help with 2-1 buy down. We do. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Fix my screen here. All right. So we have a few tools that can help with a 2-1 buy down. First off, we have our loan compare on the purchase side. I'm going to go ahead and click demo here just so we can save some time and hopefully get to some more questions. But you'll notice here, this is where you can create any loan that the client's maybe thinking about taking a look at. It will come in, compare the loans where you can have that conversation about how the rate's different, the points are different, what have you. This will showcase the total monthly cost snapshot. You'll notice we're at year 7, but we have this little slider toolbar. You can slide to whatever year it is that you want, and it will break it down. And then we're going to share with that client the total paid on principal and interest, that lowest cost snapshot. So what is best? It depends on how long you're going to live there, that remaining balance. And then this is also where you would go to get into that cost of waiting analysis. So maybe, they're thinking about the 2-1 buy down, but they're thinking about waiting. That's when you can enable that cost of waiting analysis that I just walked over. That's one tool that you can use for the 2-1 buy down. The other one that you can go ahead and utilize within MBS Highway, we have a different one under our debt consolidation and our property compare that you can go ahead and utilize on these. And I'm more than happy if you guys have questions or want to walk through a personal scenario, go ahead, feel free to reach out to me as well. It's Megan, MEGAN @mbshighway.com.
Now, Megan, we have also heard that people who were potentially thinking of selling their home, they're hanging on to their homes because they're afraid that they're going to end up in this terrible scenario when they go to buy their next home. What's a good rebuttal for that?
Well, I think oftentimes a lot of what we're seeing right now and what we need to remember, and I think a lot of this market is going to be, it's all about life circumstances at the end of the day as well. There's so many different reasons that someone needs to purchase a home or let it go or, whatever the case may be. And naturally, that is what I think we're going to see a lot of within, the market that we're currently in. But I think just having that conversation and getting down into what is going through your client's mind. So, if they want to sell their house, but they're worried because they see the market, they hear all this talk about, a slowdown, a few things that can help is one, that chart that I shared with you, Case Shiller, showing us appreciation during time periods of a recession so that you can reiterate and make them feel calm about the fact that, listen, even if you're going to have to purchase something at a higher rate, listen, rates are going to come down. We can refinance you to get that lower rate at a future date, but you're not happy in this home right now. Now's the opportunity to get in. We'll refinance you if and when rates do come back down. Let's have our cake and eat it too. But I think a big portion of it is simply just getting down to the reason that they want to sell their home. Then we know how to overcome it.
Wonderful. I think that will help a lot of our realtors. Because I know that is definitely something that they're coming across more often now than ever.
Yep.
All right. Christina, will you be emailing out the slide deck? Christina, that slide deck is is pretty much what you can find in MBS Highway.
Yes.
I
You
don't
can
think
find not all the slides,
that's
but the
an
ones that
ever evolving thing.
Yeah, the one that we're able to share, and there's a whole bunch of ones in here. Under the marketing tab, you can go to Presentation Expressway, and these are all different slides on all different topics. You can go ahead and download them. They'll open up in PowerPoint. You can edit them, brand them, do whatever you want. And then you can click the play button too, and that will be Barry or whomever walking through presenting that information.
Awesome. And thanks, Tony.
Love it.
Awesome. So does anybody else have any questions for Megan? Are these marketing materials only available with MBS account? No, you can always connect with one of your NEXA loan officers.
Yes.
They have access to this as well. And you can go ahead and get that information. It's so easy. I watched one of our loan officers go through, and the marketing piece was done like that, and they were able to send it to their realtor. So definitely reach out to your NEXA loan officer and have them help you with that.
Yeah. And we have the ability in the MBS to actually add our agents to those, correct? To some extent.
So loan officers that are on right now that need to send out an invite, you're going to go to the homepage. You're going to click on Client Manager. From here, you're going to go to Realtors, Create New, Invite, enter their contact information, hit Add, hit Next, hit Send. Now, a few things to note here. You guys are marketing together, so we do have to be RESPA compliant. So agents, there is a charge associated with this. It's $20 per year, gets you access to unlimited amount of pieces. Once you get that invite from the loan officer, you'll be able to log into what is called MBS Highway Realtor Portal. Within there, you'll be able to set up all your header information so you know they're not using a bad picture of you. You can update it whenever you want. And also what you'll be able to do is you can request the various pieces that we went over today from them. And that will, speed up that process, make it really easy to request these pieces so you guys aren't playing, phone tag back and forth.
That's awesome.
That is a great feature. Anyone else? All right. Looks like
it was a pleasure having you today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is so helpful for our agents when they can hear somebody vocalize how to explain this to their clients right now. Because I know the news likes to sell all the fear. And so I know I field those conversations all the time too. And so I know it is helpful to be able to put it in we can read the data, but then sometimes it's not always, not everybody's all great at translating it into basic.
Listen, I wasn't great at it either. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think and MBS is, I do have to say, one of my favorite tools as well, because it does help to explain it to people in a way that makes sense. And so it was really nice having you here. Hopefully we can have you back for the next quarter.
Yeah.
Love to make a habit of it. What do we have next week, Karen?
We are going to be going over or having a discussion about a P&L loan product. So profit and loss. And I believe it's only 1 year, correct?
That one's 2, I believe.
2 years? Okay, yeah. 2 years P&L. Great product. Make sure you come back to check that out.
It'll be exciting. It's another good one for our self-employed borrowers, especially during tax time. Not have all of that figured out just yet. Maybe they took some extra expenses, invested into equipment. They have some, additional, not losses per se, but additional expenses that they've reinvested into their business, and it's just not going to work out well to use the returns. This is a great opportunity for them.
Absolutely.
To use this instead. And so we will end on that. It is 10:35. Megan, again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We'll wrap this up, and you guys are free to roam the country.
Thanks, everyone.
See you soon. Bye-bye.